Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. In this edition of Tips and Tricks, I'm going to talk about how understanding your scrapbook style can make you more of an efficient shopper, which can in turn save you time and maybe even money. I'm going to be showing you my latest haul, and throughout, I'm going to discuss preferences for color, motif, stories, alphas, and even the boring basics. And this only brushes on the surface of style. However, for me, being aware of my preferences in each one of these categories has made me a better shopper. I use what I buy, I love what's in my scrap room, and believe me, it wasn't always this way. Keep in mind, this works for me, it may not work for you, and also I'm going to be talking about my style, and we each have our own. I'm just offering some food for thought here, while of course sharing some beautiful products with you. Now, the first collection I'm going to show you is from the Maggie Holmes Marigold Collection, and I bought some paper ephemera, and I do have some stickers on the way, they're just not here yet. Now, I primarily bought this collection for its color palette, and there are a lot of jewel tones and there are some neutrals as well. And those tend to be my favorite colors to scrapbook with. My favorite pages are created with these color palettes. For that reason, most of what I buy falls within these color palettes, but not everything. And I'm going to talk about that throughout this video. Also, if you are unaware of your favorite colors to scrapbook with, chances are you know, but if you're unsure, flip through your pages and select your favorites. Do you notice a pattern? Do most of your favorite pages fall within a similar color palette? And if so, use that as a guide when you are purchasing your scrapbooking material. I want to point out as well that even though most of what I buy falls within these two color palettes, that doesn't mean all the material I buy looks the same. Just because material falls within a certain color palette doesn't mean it's identical. And you're going to see that when I show you the next few collections. So this one here is from Simple Stories, the Vintage Ancestry collection. And right off the bat, you can see it's jewel tones, it's neutrals, but the colors are different. There are reds in this one. There weren't in the other one. The greens are different. The paper just looks different, but it still falls within that same color palette or those two same color palettes. Also, I want to talk about motif here, which is print. Now, my favorite prints tend to be florals, stripes, wood grain, plaid, text. I tend to gravitate towards the more general themed prints. I tend to stay away from more theme-based prints like balloons, for example, or birthday cakes on a page. Also, I tend to be a B-side scrapper, and what that means is you have paper and there are two sides to it, and one side tends to be more printed than the other. I tend to use the B-sides, the more tone-on-tone prints, in larger doses than the prints. That's just the way I scrapbook. So when I purchase material, I keep that in mind. I'm always looking at the B-sides. So if you are unaware of your motif preference, flip through your pages, select your favorites. Are you an A or B side scrapbooker? What are your favorite motifs? And use that as a guide when you're shopping. Now this collection here is theme-based. It's for heritage pages, but I plan to do probably some travel pages and just some family pages. So when I was purchasing my embellishments, I made sure that I selected general stuff. I have those titles there, these frames, those brads. All of that is not too heritage based, pretty general stuff. But I did stay away from the sticker book as well as the ephemera simply because it was more heritage based. I also bought that stencil there simply because stencils are an inexpensive tool and they're fun to use, and I didn't have a clock and that one belonged to this collection, so I bought it. So now we're going to move on to collection number 3, and this one is clearly theme-based. It's from Photoplay Paper called Cat Lover. So This part, I'm going to talk about story. So number one, I'll just mention the color here. You can see the color palette still kind of jewel to bright tones. Anyway, I absolutely love the color palette, but it's really different than the other two. The other two were more vintage based, and this one isn't. So it has a complete different feel and look about it. And obviously it's theme based, it's cat based, but if you look at the B sides of the paper, there are dots and stripes and all of that. Very, very general. So for this part, I'm going to talk about stories because when I'm purchasing material, it's important for me to keep in mind the stories that I'm going to tell and my lifestyle. Now, I have a kitty, Chester, so I'm going to be creating pages about my cat. So this theme is actually going to work for me. So when I'm buying material, I definitely keep my stories in mind, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here. So this is the Carta Bella Winter Market Collection. I absolutely love it. I love all Carta Bella material, but honestly, in the past, I've stayed away from winter collections simply because I don't like winter, even though I live in a wintry part of the world. Typically, I stay inside and go to the gym. However, gyms are closed now, so I have no choice this year but to get outside and walk and enjoy nature. So, for that reason, I actually have a reason to buy a winter collection. So, what I want you to take away from what I just said here is even though I love a collection, if it doesn't fit within my story, within my lifestyle, I'm not going to buy it, even if it's on sale, because otherwise it's just going to pile up in my scrap room and I'm not going to use it. So back to this collection here. I'm showing you the papers I have. Again, the color palette here, much more limited than the other two, but still those rich tones. So it falls within my color preferences. Also, for the embellishments for this collection, well, this one here comes with stickers within the collection. The B-sides are pretty general. For this one, I actually bought a 6x6 paper pad, and that is something I typically don't do. I am very picky about paper pads, believe me, because a lot of them, the quality of the paper and paper pads isn't the same as you would find in a 12x12 single sheet. But for Carta Bella, it's absolutely gorgeous. The texture is a bit different, but the colors are as rich. And for this collection, I didn't buy a whole lot of the embellishments and stickers. Instead, I bought dies because I love tools and I don't have snowflake die. So I invested in that instead for this particular collection. Now we're going to move on to the fifth collection here. And as you can see, this is completely different than the other four that I showed you. The other four really fit within my color preferences and theme preferences, or non-theme preferences, I should say, as well as my motifs. But this one here from Doodlebug Design, the Made with Love collection, is really out there in left field for me. However, I absolutely love it. Even though the color palette's completely different for me with the pinks and aquas and yellows, and Doodlebug Design, well, it's really cutesy with all those smiley faces. However, I love the colors in this collection, and the B-sides are fantastic. Also, this one is kitchen themed, and I do tend to like kitchen themed products, so I'm going to have fun with this. But what I want you to take away from this is 4 of the 5 collections I showed you fall within my preferences, my personal style. And this one's kind of out there in left field. And that's okay, because I like to have a small portion of my product out there in left field, as long as I love it. That's the most important thing, because sometimes I just feel like doing something really different and I feel like playing with really different material. But again, what's important here is the proportion of it. Most of what I have falls within my style preferences, my typical style preferences, and a little bit of it is just outside of it. And that's what I'm doing here with this Doodlebug Design. So I showed you all the material, and I'm showing you these alphas here that I bought to go with the Doodlebug Design collection. However, I do want to talk about alphas and alpha style because that also has helped me kind of narrow my shopping bit. It helped me save money basically. I'm going to show you two sets of alphas here, those large black foam thickers from Simple Stories and those other small thickers. I think it's called the Twilight Collection. Anyway, most of my alphas are those. I'm showing you two packs. You can see I bought several of these collections in the past, and what I do is I keep replenishing them when I'm running out of letters. These are what I like to call my base alpha. I mix those alphas a lot with other ones. I like to play with titles. I like dynamic titles, but what I have is a base title. That's what I mostly invest in. And then I have small bits of other ones and I mix it with it. That's all. Now I'm moving on to tools. Now this one here from Elizabeth Craft Design, it's part of my haul and I really did have to reflect when I purchased it. The one I'm showing you right there, I bought in December, and it was after the fact I noticed there was an accompanying die. The two can be used separately, but they are made to go together. And it just kind of haunted me because I knew that there was one out there that went with a die that I already had. And I feared if I waited too long, it would no longer exist and I would regret not buying it. I use my tools, so I'm not too worried I'll get it used up. I'll use it, that's for sure. And finally, I'm moving on to the boring basics here. So I'm showing you the black and white cardstock, both from Basil there, are my favorite cardstocks. If I don't have 20 of each in my office, I'm ordering more. The other three there, the vanilla, navy, and charcoal, those ones I also have on hand, but in smaller doses. And I just want to mention this vanilla cardstock because I use a lot of crepe paper as well as Simple Stories. And the cream color in it, for a long time, I had a hard time matching it up. But the vanilla cardstock from Basil works perfectly with it. I'm also showing you some wood grain paper there. I tend to love wood grain, so when I find one, I buy a chunk of it, and that one there is from the Marigold Collection. And the same thing for lined and graph paper. I like to journal, so when I find one that I like, I just buy a little chunk of it, and that way I know I have it on hand. These boring basics are boring to buy, but they sure are nice to have on hand when you're scrapbooking because, for me anyway, those are the type of products I reach for all the time. And when I don't have them in my office, it just makes scrapbooking a lot more difficult. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the material that I'll be using for the next few months for sure. I'm not going to be doing much shopping until I make a really big dent in this. But it shouldn't be too difficult because everything I have here I love and it fits my style. So just to review here, when I shop, I keep my style preferences in mind, especially about color, motif, story, alphas, and my favorite boring basics. And in doing so, I end up buying products I love. So when I go to scrap, I'm actually excited about the material that's in my scrap room. I think it helps me save time too because I'm not struggling to make something that's kind of so-so in my mind look good. Does it save me money? I'm not sure about that, but maybe it does. Anyway, one thing for certain, it does prevent me from wasting money because I use what I buy. It also means I no longer shop for sales or grab bags, and that's kind of a drag because I loved doing that. But I ended up with a lot of material in my office that I didn't use when I shopped that way. Now I shop for what I love, and if it happens to be on sale, all the better. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be thrilled if you subscribe. Have a fantastic day and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.